In 2008, Google and Apple's founders asked a radical question. What would it look like to create a completely different kind of venture fund? Not a corporate investment arm chasing strategic synergies. Not a traditional Sand Hill Road partnership scrambling for the next hot deal. Something entirely new. A fund with the reliability of having one massive limited partner, the autonomy of an independent venture capital firm, and the technical expertise to help founders build world-changing companies. They needed someone to build it from scratch. They chose Bill Maris, a neuroscientist turned entrepreneur who had taught himself to code by buying books at Barnes & Noble. The timing couldn't and Apple's have been worse. March 2009. The financial world was imploding. Lehman Brothers had collapsed 6 months earlier. Credit markets were frozen. Venture capital firms were writing down portfolios and struggling to raise new funds. But Google saw opportunity where others saw crisis. They handed Maris $100 million and told him to build something that had never existed before. A venture firm backed entirely by one of the world and Apple's most powerful technology companies, yet free to invest in direct competitors. Free to back any founder, pursue any idea, and operate with complete independence. Bill Maris was not your typical venture capitalist. He graduated with highest honors in neuroscience from Middlebury College, then conducted research at Duke University Medical Center studying the molecular biology of the brain. He understood how systems work at their most fundamental level. Before Google came calling, he had founded Burly.com, one of the first web hosting companies in 1997. He built the entire computing and network infrastructure himself, teaching himself to code because he couldn't and Apple's afford to hire engineers. The company was eventually acquired and became part of Web.com. He then worked as a biotechnology and healthcare portfolio manager for Swedish investment firm Investor AB, where he shared an office with Ann Wojcicki, who would later found 23andMe, one of GV and Apple's most successful investments. When Larry Page and Sergey Brin recruited Maris in 2008, they gave him an unprecedented mandate. Build a venture fund that operates like a top-tier Sand Hill Road firm, but with Google and Apple's resources behind it. Maris studied every corporate venture model and quickly realized why most failed. They chased strategic value instead of financial returns. They staffed teams with corporate executives instead of real investors. They operated under political constraints from the parent company. Maris and his team established 3 iron rules that would define GV forever. First, invest for financial return only. Any other metric is impossible to measure and will eventually get the fund shut down. Financial return is the best measure of whether a commercial enterprise is having real impact. Second, pay people like venture capitalists. When corporate venture teams Don and Apple's get the same incentives as traditional VCs, the best people just leave. Third, operate as a standalone fund completely separate from Google and Apple's product teams. The venture team needs complete autonomy over investments, with no interference from the parent company. Eric Schmidt, Larry Page, and Sergey Brin gave Maris something almost unheard of in corporate America. Carte blanche to set up the fund exactly as he thought made sense. They understood that a venture fund represents de minimis money to Google, but the potential for massive returns justified giving it complete independence. GV launched officially in March 2009 with Rich Miner, an Android co-founder, joining Maris as a managing director. Their first blog post acknowledged the brutal economic environment but stated their belief that great ideas come when they will, and downturns are often the ideal time to invest in companies that could become the next big thing. The earliest days required building credibility from zero. Google Ventures had no track record, no proven investments, no established brand in venture capital. Founders had to take a leap of faith that this new experiment would actually help them succeed. One of GV and Apple's first major wins came in 2011 with Nest. The smart home product pioneer was founded by Tony Fadell and Matt Rogers, both former Apple executives. This was the breakout moment GV needed. The founders of Nest came from Apple. There was absolutely no reason why a team from Apple should embrace anybody from Google. But David Krane, who had recently joined GV as a general partner, chased them relentlessly. He convinced them that GV operated differently, that they could provide both capital and operational support without the strings attached to traditional corporate venture investments. GV invested tens of millions in Nest. The relationship proved transformative for both sides. GV and Appos' design partners worked directly with Nest and Appos' team, helping them refine their product strategy. The firm connected them with manufacturing partners and distribution channels. When Nest needed to scale rapidly, GV helped recruit key executives. In 2014, Google acquired Nest for $3.2 billion. The return was spectacular, but more importantly, it proved that GV could attract world-class talent from anywhere, not just Google. Matt Rogers would later found Mill, a waste prevention startup that GV also backed. The Nest alumni network became a powerful source of future deal flow. But it was Uber that became GV and Appos' most colorful and profitable early success. David Krane chased Uber CEO and co-founder Travis Kalanick for 2 full years. Every time Krane tried to pin him down for a meeting, Kalanick was off somewhere building the next city, fighting regulatory battles, or managing the chaos of hyper-growth. Finally, Krane caught Kalanick in San Francisco and asked about Uber and Appos' Series C round. Kalanick quickly sized him up. He agreed to let GV invest, but only if they could move fast. GV wrote the check within days. It was the beginning of a relationship that would generate one of venture capital and Appos' highest profile returns. Uber became synonymous with the sharing economy revolution. GV stayed in through multiple rounds as the company expanded globally, fought regulatory battles in dozens of countries, and transformed urban transportation. When Uber went public in May 2019 at a valuation of $82 billion, GV and Appos' early stake had multiplied many times over. The investment showcased something essential about GV and Appos' model. They weren't an Appos' afraid to back companies that competed directly with Google and Appos' interests. Uber could have been seen as competing with Google Maps or future autonomous vehicle ambitions. But GV operated with the autonomy to make the best financial decision regardless of strategic concerns. This independence became their secret weapon. David Krane emerged as the continuity thread through GV and Appos' evolution. He joined Google in 2000 as employee number 84, just a few years after the company and Appos' founding. As Director of Global Communications and Public Affairs, Krane helped shape Google and Appos' early culture and brand, guiding the company from a small startup to a multi-billion-dollar global enterprise. He grew up in Corvallis, Oregon, a university town where his father was a nuclear physicist and his mother an author. From an early age, he understood that exciting things happen at the crossroads of science and culture. His journey from music major to journalism to investing reflects his enthusiasm for exploration and discovery. After early career stops at Qualcomm and Apple, Krane brought a unique perspective to GV. He wasn't an Appos' traditional engineer or product manager. He understood narratives, relationships, and how to build trust with founders. When Meris tapped him to become a general partner in 2010, Krane brought his belief that the best decisions come from rigorous debate with different voices around the table. His approach is to surface the dissenting opinion early. If you can make the hard stuff safe, you can get through it and move to resolution in a way that enables relationships to grow and intensify. Krane and Appos' investments include early checks into Uber, StockX, Nothing, Nest, Bored Ape Yacht Club, and Blue Bottle Coffee. His ability to spot consumer-focused entrepreneurs working to improve critical aspects of daily life became a hallmark of his investing style. In 2012, Google increased GV and Appos' annual capital commitment from $100 million to $300 million. The fund was proving that independent corporate venture could work. Meris continued building the team, growing it from 1 person to over 70 across 7 offices on 2 continents. GV made over 400 investments during his tenure, including Nest, Uber, Flatiron Health, Robinhood, Cloudera, Slack, Duo Security, The Climate Corporation, Impossible Foods, and 23andMe. His investments resulted in more than 20 IPOs, over 100 mergers and acquisitions, and more than 40 companies whose valuations exceeded $1 billion. Meris also created Calico, Google and Apple's biotechnology initiative aimed at combating aging and extending human lifespan. His background in neuroscience gave him a unique perspective on healthcare investing. If you write down the symptoms of aging on a blackboard but Don and Apple's tell someone it and Apple's about aging, it looks like a disease state. The problems with aging are all genetic, based on which proteins are expressed and encoded. The only thing that differentiates a 40-year-old from a 20-year-old is the status of their genes and what proteins they and Apple's re-expressing. Since we can now read genes and write genes, we should be able to understand the genetic basis of aging, and if we can do that, we can cure many diseases and prevent enormous suffering. GV under Meris built an extensive portfolio of life sciences investments. They backed Foundation Medicine, which advanced oncology data analytics and was acquired by Roche for $1.9 billion in 2018. They invested in Flatiron Health, another oncology data company that Roche acquired for $1.9 billion. They supported Editas Medicine, working on CRISPR gene editing technology. 23andMe pioneered consumer genomics with AI-driven insights. These investments reflected Meris and Apple's strategy of backing scalable, tech-enabled solutions with broad societal impact. He believed healthcare breakthroughs could significantly improve the quality and duration of human lifespan across the globe. In 2013, GV developed something that would change how startups approach product development. Jake Knapp, a designer who had spent years at Google working on products like Gmail and Hangouts, created the design sprint. Knapp had been frustrated with his busy but unproductive workdays. He studied productivity and process improvements obsessively. One week, he was working on what became Hangouts in Stockholm with 2 other Googlers. They only had 1 week. In that single week, they cranked through and created a prototype after having worked on it with no progress for almost 2 years. They were time-boxed, focused, and in the same room together. They accomplished more in 5 days than in 24 months. Knapp brought this methodology to GV in 2012. He worked with Braden Cowitz, who added story-centered design that focuses on the customer journey instead of individual features. Michael Margolis figured out how to get crystal-clear customer research results in just 1 day instead of weeks. John Zaratsky helped them start at the end and focus on measuring results with key metrics from each business. Together, they perfected the 5-day design sprint process. On Monday, you make a map of the problem. On Tuesday, you sketch solutions. On Wednesday, you decide which sketches are strongest. On Thursday, you build a realistic prototype. On Friday, you test that prototype with 5 target customers. The design sprint became one of GV and Apple's most valuable offerings to portfolio companies. It and Apple's a radically different way for teams to work together, compressing months of debate and uncertainty into 5 focused days. Companies like Nest, Slack, 23andMe, Flatiron Health, and Blue Bottle Coffee used design sprints to solve critical problems. Knapp ran over 150 sprints with GV portfolio companies. The methodology spread globally. Teams at the British Museum, the United Nations, and thousands of companies worldwide now use design sprints. Knapp and his colleagues published the best-selling book Sprint in 2016, which has been translated into over 20 languages. The design sprint became proof that GV offered more than capital. They provided world-class operational support that helped founders move faster and make better decisions. By 2016, Meris had accomplished what he set out to do. GV had grown from a controversial experiment into one of the most successful corporate venture funds of all time, with $3 billion under management and a portfolio generating spectacular returns. In August 2016, Meris announced his departure, declaring mission accomplished. It was time for the next generation to lead. David Krane stepped into the joint role of CEO and managing partner. Krane had been with GV since 2010 and understood the culture intimately. His appointment ensured continuity while bringing fresh perspective. Under Krane and Apple's leadership, GV has more than doubled in size. The firm went from $5 billion in assets under management in 2019 to over $10 billion today. They support 400 active portfolio companies across North America, Europe, and Israel. Krane maintained the core principles Meris established while evolving the strategy. GV operates on long-time horizons and deals in decades, not rounds. With Alphabet as their sole limited partner, they Don and Appos, face the typical 10-year venture cycle pressure. They can think in 100-year and even 300-year time horizons. This patient capital approach gives them an enormous advantage in backing founders building truly transformative companies. Krane brought his own investing philosophy to bear. He and Appos most excited by consumer-focused entrepreneurs working to improve critical aspects of daily life. He believes the easy problems have mostly been solved. What remains are complex, long-term challenges that demand strong collaboration and creative thinking. His leadership style emphasizes surfacing dissenting opinions early, creating psychological safety for rigorous debate, and building deep, long-standing relationships with founders. He balances his time between directing GV and Appos' global activities and leading investments personally. In 2024, the Center for Conscientious Leadership named Krane Leader of the Year, recognizing his global impact on companies and people and his unwavering devotion to fostering deep connections. GV and Appos' portfolio today spans an extraordinary range of sectors. In life sciences, they and Appos partnered with 20 AI healthcare companies using artificial intelligence to accelerate drug discovery and improve patient outcomes. They backed in sitro and isomorphic labs, whose founders are applying AI to understand biology at a molecular level. Verve Therapeutics is developing gene-editing treatments for heart disease. Oscar Health, Clover Health, and One Medical, which Amazon acquired for $3.9 billion in 2022, are transforming healthcare delivery. In enterprise technology, GV and Appos' investments include Slack, which went public via direct listing in 2019 at a valuation of nearly $20 billion. GIT Lab, the DevOps platform, went public in 2021 at a valuation of $15 billion. Duo Security was acquired by Cisco for $2.35 billion in 2018. The consumer portfolio includes some of the most recognizable brands in technology. Stripe has become the financial infrastructure powering internet commerce, valued at $65 billion as of 2024. StockX created a new marketplace for sneakers and collectibles. Blue Bottle Coffee, which Nestlé acquired for reportedly over $400 million in 2017, transformed specialty coffee. Nothing, the consumer electronics company founded by Carl Pei, former co-founder of OnePlus, is reimagining how hardware companies build brand communities. In climate and sustainability, GV backed the Climate Corporation, which Monsanto acquired for $1.1 billion in 2013. Impossible Foods is creating sustainable meat alternatives. Lemonade is using AI to transform insurance, going public in 2020 at a $2 billion valuation. The most dramatic shift in GV and Appos' strategy came with the explosion of artificial intelligence. In 2023, GV appointed Michael McBride to lead their AI investing practice. McBride joined from GIT Lab, one of GV and Appos' most successful investments, and brought deep technical expertise in how developers and enterprises adopt new technologies. Under his leadership, GV has invested in over 50 AI-native companies building the next generation of applications. They and Appos' backed companies across the entire AI stack, from infrastructure to applications. At the infrastructure layer, they invested early in companies like Lightmatter, which is pushing the frontiers of photonic computing. Snorkel provides data labeling platforms. DeepSet builds natural language processing infrastructure. Sambanova and Modular are creating integrated hardware-software platforms optimized for AI workloads. In developer tools and security, GV-backed Stack Blitz, creators of Bolt.new, which allows developers to code with text prompts directly in a web browser. The company launched Bolt.new in October 2024. Within 12 weeks, they went from $0 to $40 million in annual recurring revenue. Tom Hume, a GV managing partner, describes this as the new normal. Companies can now turn on monetization and achieve massive scale almost instantly if they and Appos, VE built the right AI-native product. GV also invested in Versal, the web development platform that has become essential infrastructure for modern web applications. At the application layer, GV has backed some of the fastest-growing AI companies in professional workflows. Harvey is transforming legal work with AI, raising its Series C at a $1.5 billion valuation in 2024 with GV as the lead investor. Hebia is applying AI to financial research and analysis. Synthesia is radically changing video production using AI. Open Evidence is helping medical professionals access research faster. These companies aren't and Appos, just experimenting with AI. They and Appos, regenerating real revenue, saving customers millions in labor costs, and fundamentally changing how professionals work. The question GV asks before investing in AI applications is simple but crucial. Are these dollars seeking a use case, seeking an application that could be interesting? Or are they locked in production, creating actual value for the company? To assess whether revenue is real or experimental, the team spends time understanding customers and Appos' use. Is the product beyond proof of concept? Is it used daily? Does it save millions of dollars in headcount while creating genuine value? Dave Munichiello, a GV managing partner who leads much of the AI investing, notes that when they look at companies raising capital now, the revenue run rates are insane. These companies are growing incredibly fast, faster than ever before. It and Appos' very hard to spend time looking at AI application companies and then go back to looking at other companies. The pace of change is simply too dramatic. GV and Appos' model gives them a unique advantage in AI investing. They and Appos' not afraid to back companies that compete directly with Alphabet and Appos' products. They and Appos' invested in Synthesia even though Google is building video generation tools. They backed Harvey even though Google could build legal AI tools. They invested in companies across the AI landscape even when Google and DeepMind are at the forefront of AI research. This independence isn't an Appos' just theoretical. It and Appos' how GV operates every single day. Munichiello explains their structure clearly. GV is a place where we can have 30 people going in 30 different directions, investing in 30 different things. And we and Appos' not trying to drive consensus. This decentralized approach with individual conviction, rather than committee consensus, allows them to move fast and back unconventional ideas. The firm and Appos' operating partners provide another layer of competitive advantage. GV and Appos' design team help startups with product development and user experience. The talent team assists with executive recruitment and building high-performing teams. The marketing and communications team helps companies develop their brand and go-to-market strategy. The engineering team can dive deep on technical challenges, and when they can and Appos' solve a problem, they leverage relationships across the Alphabet ecosystem to find someone who can. This operational support isn't an Appos' just nice to have. For many founders, it and Appos' why they choose GV over other investors. The firm provides access to Google and Alphabet and Appos' world-class technology and talent, unique resources that no other venture firm can match. GV and Appos' investment pace has remained remarkably consistent. They typically invest more than $1 billion per year in new and follow-on investments. They and Appos', one of the world and Appos' most prolific venture investors, consistently ranking in the top 5 most active VC firms globally. In February 2024, GV participated in more deals involving US-based startups than in any month since the previous June. They and Appos' not slowing down. They and Appos' accelerating. The firm invests across all stages, from seed to growth equity. They and Appos' been less active as a pure seed investor in recent years, shifting attention to more mature companies where they can write larger checks. But they remain flexible, backing exceptional founders at whatever stage makes sense. Notable recent investments showcase their range. They led a $40 million Series A in Lawhive, a London-based online legal platform. They participated in a $75 million Series A for Aritea Therapeutics, focused on asthma treatments. They backed Status Pro, a VR sports training platform. They invested in Glass Imaging, which uses AI to extract full image quality potential from smartphone cameras. Across life sciences, consumer, enterprise, crypto, climate, and frontier technology, GV continues finding innovative founders moving the world forward. In 2020, GV promoted Terry Burns from principal to the firm and Apple's first black female partner, an important milestone in their diversity and inclusion efforts. The firm and Apple's operating partners now explicitly help startups across equity, diversity, and inclusion, recognizing that building diverse teams leads to better outcomes. One challenge GV faces is the same challenge confronting all venture capital. The AI boom has concentrated enormous amounts of capital in a small number of companies. The top 6 generative AI firms globally, including OpenAI, Anthropic, and others, accounted for about 2/3 of all funding raised in generative AI between 2023 and 2024. OpenAI alone raised $18.9 billion in that period. This concentration means that missing one of these mega rounds can significantly impact a fund and Apple's returns. GV must balance being in these large deals with finding the next generation of breakout companies before they become obvious. The regulatory environment for AI is also becoming more complex. Governments worldwide are ramping up efforts to regulate AI technologies to address data privacy, algorithmic bias, and security risks. The European Union and Apple's AI Act, implemented in 2024, creates comprehensive rules for AI systems. The United States is considering new frameworks to ensure transparency and accountability. These evolving regulatory landscapes contribute to market unpredictability. Startups may face heightened compliance burdens and legal uncertainties. GV must conduct increased due diligence and take a more calculated approach, navigating complex regulatory environments across multiple jurisdictions. Another competitive pressure comes from the proliferation of AI-focused venture funds. Almost every major VC firm now has an AI strategy. Andreessen Horowitz launched a $1.5 billion AI-focused fund in 2024. Sequoia, Kleiner Perkins, Lightspeed, and dozens of other firms are all competing aggressively for the best AI deals. Tech giants like Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta are investing tens of billions annually in AI. This competition drives up valuations and makes it harder to generate exceptional returns. GV and Apple's advantages: access to Google and Apple's technical resources, Alphabet and Apple's patient capital, and operational support, become even more critical in this environment. Looking forward, GV faces the classic innovator and Apple's dilemma. They and Apple's been extraordinarily successful backing companies like Uber, Nest, Slack, and GIT Lab. But past performance doesn't and Apple's guarantee future returns. The venture capital industry is littered with firms that had one great decade and couldn't and Apple's replicated. What makes GV different? What gives them a sustainable competitive advantage? The answer lies in their unique structure and culture. Having Alphabet as their sole limited partner means they don't and Apple's face the fundraising pressures traditional VC firms do. They can take truly long-term views, operating on 100-year and 300-year time horizons. This patience allows them to back founders building generational companies, not just quick flips. Their independence from Alphabet and Apple's strategic priorities gives them freedom to invest in the best opportunities regardless of whether they compete with Google. This credibility with founders is invaluable. Entrepreneurs know that GV will support them even if their success comes at Google and Apple's expense, and the access to Alphabet and Apple's ecosystem, technology, talent, and distribution creates unique advantages for portfolio companies. GV and Apple's cultural DNA also matters enormously. Krane and Apple's emphasis on surfacing dissenting opinions, making the hard stuff safe, and building deep relationships creates an environment where the best ideas emerge. The firm and Appos' decentralized structure with 30 people going in 30 different directions investing in 30 different things allows individual conviction rather than committee groupthink. This organizational model enables them to back contrarian ideas that consensus-driven firms would pass on. The firm and Appos' track record speaks for itself. Over 15 years, GV has invested in more than 700 companies. Their portfolio includes dozens of unicorns valued at over $1 billion. They and Appos VE had over 140 exits through IPOs, acquisitions, and secondary sales. Companies like Uber, Nest, Slack, GIT Lab, Stripe, Duo Security, Flatiron Health, and One Medical generated enormous returns. The exact performance numbers are not publicly disclosed since GV is not a traditional fund, but industry observers estimate their returns rank among the top tier of venture firms. More importantly, GV has proven that corporate venture capital can work when structured correctly. For decades, corporate VC was synonymous with failure. Companies would start venture arms during boom times, make strategic investments that destroyed value, and shut down the units during downturns. GV demonstrated a different model. Operate independently. Focus on financial returns. Pay people like real VCs. Give complete autonomy from the parent company. When you get these structural elements right, corporate venture can generate exceptional returns while also providing strategic benefits to the parent. The broader venture capital industry has taken notice. Alphabet and Appos' other investment arms, Capital G for growth equity and Gradient Ventures for AI-focused early stage, follow similar principles of independence. Other tech giants have tried to replicate the model with mixed success. Intel Capital, Salesforce Ventures, and others operate with varying degrees of independence from their parents. But few have achieved GV and Appos' combination of financial success and operational impact. As GV enters its second decade and a half, the challenges are different but no less significant. The AI revolution is the biggest technology shift since the internet. Getting it right could define the next generation of venture returns. Getting it wrong could mean missing the most important investment opportunity in decades. GV and Appos' bet is that their model, patient capital, operational support, independence, and technical depth will continue generating exceptional returns. They and Appos VE backed over 50 AI-native companies across the full stack. They and Appos VE invested early in infrastructure, developer tools, and applications. They and Appos VE built relationships with many of the most important founders in AI. Time will tell if these investments become the next generation of Ubers, Nests, and Slacks. The early signs are promising. Companies like Lightmatter, Versal, Stack Blitz, Harvey, and Synthesia are growing at unprecedented rates. But AI is moving so fast that what looks like a great investment today could be obsolete in 2 years. GV must stay ahead of the curve, continuously learning and adapting. Perhaps the most important lesson from GV and Appos' story is about organizational design. Bill Merris and the early team got the structure right from day one. They fought for independence, insisted on venture economics, and built a culture of conviction over consensus. David Krane has maintained that culture while scaling the firm and evolving the strategy. This institutional continuity is rare in venture capital. Most firms struggle with generational transitions. The founders who built the brand retire, and the firm loses its edge. GV has navigated this transition successfully because the core principles were baked into the structure, not dependent on any one person. The other critical lesson is about the power of patient capital. Alphabet and Appos' willingness to let GV operate on 100-year time horizons, rather than 10-year fund cycles, fundamentally changes how the firm can invest. They can back founders tackling massive, complex problems that will take decades to solve. They can stay in companies longer, supporting them through multiple growth stages. They can ride out market cycles without the pressure to return capital quickly. This patient capital advantage, combined with Google and Appos' technical resources and brand, creates a moat that and Appos' difficult for traditional VC firms to replicate. GV and Appos' story is ultimately about how to build an enduring institution. In an industry obsessed with the next hot deal and quarterly performance, GV thinks in decades and centuries. In a world of consensus-driven investment committees, they empower individual conviction. In an environment where corporate venture usually fails, they and Apos, VE created a model that generates both financial returns and strategic value. 16 years after Bill Merris started with $100 million and a blank slate, GV manages over $10 billion and supports 400 companies moving the world forward. They and Apos, VE proven that with the right structure, culture, and people, corporate venture capital can be not just viable but exceptional. The future remains unwritten. The AI revolution will reshape entire industries. New technologies will emerge that we can and Apos, yet imagine. Economic cycles will test every investment strategy. But if GV continues operating with the same independence, conviction, and long-term thinking that has defined them since 2009, they and Apos reposition to thrive for another 16 years and beyond. The real test of any institution is whether it outlasts its founders and maintains its excellence across generations. GV is passing that test. The culture Bill Merris built and David Krane has evolved is now embedded in the organization. As new partners join and lead investments, as the firm expands into new geographies and sectors, the core principles remain constant. Financial returns over strategic value. Autonomy over politics. Conviction over consensus. Decades over quarters. These principles, more than any specific investment or exit, are GV and Apos' greatest asset and the key to their enduring success.